The sun begins to set over the city of Rome, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets and painting the sky in hues of deep orange and muted purple. As the sounds of the bustling city slowly fade into the distance, you find yourself standing at the edge of a great amphitheater, the Flavian Amphitheater, which the world will come to know as the Colosseum. The air is warm and carries a faint, earthy scent of dust and sand, mixing with the distant aroma of wine and baking bread from a nearby tavern. A gentle breeze brushes against your skin, and you hear the soft, rhythmic footsteps of a guard patrolling the perimeter. This is not the chaotic, screaming Rome of the games. This is the quiet, reflective Rome that exists in the moments between spectacles, a city of marble and stone that seems to hold its breath, waiting for the dawn. The sounds of the city are now a soft murmur, a distant hum that will soon lull you into a state of deep, historical relaxation, as we embark on a journey to understand the life of a gladiator, a figure shrouded in legend, violence, and enduring mystery. But what if I told you that the story of the gladiator is not one of simple, mindless brutality? What if I told you that these men, and sometimes women, were among the most celebrated and complex figures of their time, and their existence was woven into the very fabric of Roman society, economy, and politics? We are going to venture beyond the cinematic portrayals of epic battles and flesh wounds, and we are going to explore the day-to-day reality of these ancient warriors. We will wake up with them in their barracks, feel the cold stone beneath their feet, and hear the clang of their training swords in the practice yard. We will discover that their lives were governed by a strict set of rules, a rigid social structure, and a dietary regimen that would rival any modern-day athlete. And as the night deepens and the sounds of the ancient world become a gentle, soothing blanket, we will explore the incredibly complex, often surprising, and deeply human story of the men who fought for their lives, for their freedom, and for the entertainment of an empire. This is not just a history of violence. It is a story of human endurance, honor, and the eternal struggle for a life beyond the sand and the sword. A gladiator's life began in many ways long before he ever stepped foot into the arena. The majority of gladiators were enslaved people, prisoners of war, or criminals condemned to the arena. These men were not simply thrown to the lions, they were a valuable investment. The term gladiator itself derives from the Roman word gladius, meaning sword, and the profession was as much a business as it was a form of punishment. Owners, known as Lanista, would purchase strong, healthy men and women, often from the far-flung corners of the empire, from the forests of Germania to the deserts of North Africa. They saw them not as disposable pawns, but as prized assets, much like a modern-day sports franchise owner would view a star athlete. The journey from prisoner to gladiator began with a rigorous selection process. A potential fighter was examined for his physical strength, his agility, and his overall temperament. He was then assigned to a specific combat style, a crucial decision that would dictate his equipment, his fighting techniques, and even his path to fame or death. The training of a gladiator was a brutal and unrelenting affair. The would-be warriors were sent to a Ludus, a specialized gladiator school. The most famous of these was the Ludus Magnus, located just a short distance from the Colosseum in Rome, connected by an underground tunnel. Life inside a Ludus was incredibly regimented, far removed from the chaotic violence of the arena. The day began before dawn, with a strict system of training, rest, and diet. The students, who were now considered the property of the Lanista, were treated with a surprising level of care. They were fed a high-energy diet of barley, beans, and dried fruits to build muscle mass and stamina, often supplemented with a drink of ashes, which modern science suggests was rich in calcium to help with bone healing. They slept in small, well-ventilated cells, and they were taught by a doctor, a physician who was an expert in treating the specific wounds of a gladiator. This was not just about creating a killer, it was about creating a long-term, profitable entertainment product. Smart minds stick together, so if this clicked with you, do me a kind favor, hit like, tap subscribe, share your biggest takeaway in the comments, and pass this on to a friend who'd appreciate it. Your support means the world. Thank you. The training itself was overseen by a doctor, often a former, highly experienced gladiator who had earned his freedom. He knew the business inside and out, and his job was to sculpt raw recruits into skilled, disciplined, and entertaining fighters. They practiced with wooden swords, weighted down to be heavier than their real steel counterparts to build strength and muscle memory. They trained against a wooden post, the palace, practicing their strikes, blocks, and parries until the movements became second nature, automatic and fluid. They studied different fighting styles and learned to counter the moves of other gladiator types, anticipating the charge of a murmillo or the net of a retiarius. The atmosphere in the training yard was one of intense focus, a sort of grim professionalism, a strange blend of school, factory, and military barracks. The clatter of wooden swords against shields was a constant, rhythmic sound, a backdrop to the lives of men who were both the most revered and the most disposable in Roman society. The gladiator types or classes were highly specialized, each with its own unique equipment and fighting style. The murmillo, arguably the most iconic, was the heavy infantryman. He wore a large, rectangular shield, the scutum, and a crested helmet with a distinctive visor. He was armed with the gladius, a short, stabbing sword, and he fought with slow, powerful, and methodical movements. His primary opponent was often the Thrax, or Thracian, who was lightly armored with a small, square shield called a palma and a curved seeker sword designed for slashing. The Thrax was faster and more agile, moving in quick, darting motions, trying to find an opening in the murmillo's defense. Another popular pairing was the retiarius, a name that meant net fighter. He fought with a trident and a weighted net, wearing little more than a loincloth and a metal arm guard. He was the lightest and most mobile of the types, his entire strategy revolving around entangling his heavier opponent and then delivering a killing blow with his trident, a battle of speed versus strength, technique versus raw power. The hoplomachus, or heavily armed fighter, was a nod to the Greek style of combat. He wore a plumed helmet, a small, round shield, and carried a long thrusting spear and a short sword. His opponent was often the Dimicaeus, who fought with two swords, showcasing incredible dexterity and aggression. These were not just random classifications, they were carefully choreographed matchups designed to create compelling and visually diverse spectacles. Each gladiator's equipment, from the weight of his shield to the curve of his sword, dictated his strengths and weaknesses, creating a dynamic and unpredictable dance in the arena. The public loved these distinct characters, and a gladiator's fame and fortune were as much tied to his style and his look as they were to his skill in combat. The social status of a gladiator was one of profound contradiction. On one hand, they were considered infames, the lowest tier of Roman society, alongside actors, prostitutes, and pimps. They were tainted by their association with bloodshed and were legally seen as property, not as citizens. They had no standing, and their lives were in the hands of their Lanista and the whims of the crowd. Yet, on the other hand, they were celebrities. A successful gladiator could become a superstar, enjoying immense wealth, fame, and influence that could rival even the most powerful senators. Their images were painted on walls across the empire, their names were chanted in the streets, and their victories were celebrated with songs and poetry. They were admired for their bravery, their skill, and their stoic acceptance of their fate. They were objects of pity, fascination, and desire, a fact that often led to unusual relationships with the elite, and particularly with wealthy Roman women who were drawn to the dangerous allure of the arena fighter. This celebrity status brought with it a complex set of rewards and privileges. While the vast majority of gladiators would die in the arena, a successful fighter could fight his way to freedom. A gladiator who won a bout was not necessarily set free. The crowd or the emperor could grant him the rudis, a wooden sword that was a symbol of his emancipation. This act would be a spectacle in itself, a show of mercy and generosity that would be lauded by the audience and would cement the gladiator's legend. A freed gladiator, or rudarius, was a rare and respected figure. He often remained in the business, becoming a trainer, a bodyguard, or even a wealthy businessman, leveraging his fame and connections. He was still considered infames for the rest of his life, but his wealth and status often allowed him to live in a comfort that was otherwise denied to him. The economics of gladiatorial combat was staggering. The cost of a high-level gladiator could be immense, sometimes exceeding the price of a large estate. The Lanista would buy, sell, and lease his fighters, and a single game could involve dozens or even hundreds of gladiators, representing a huge financial risk. The Lanista wanted his investments to fight well and, if possible, to survive. The sponsor of the games, a wealthy individual or the emperor himself, would foot the bill, using the spectacle as a way to gain political favor and popularity with the masses. It was a symbiotic relationship. The sponsor provided the games, the people were entertained, and the gladiators, with their lives and their blood, were the currency that made the whole system work. But perhaps the most surprising aspect of a gladiator's life is the fact that they were, in many ways, incredibly well cared for. A dead gladiator was a loss of investment. A wounded gladiator could be healed and returned to the arena to fight another day. The gladiators had access to the best doctors of the time, who were skilled in treating wounds with herbal remedies, stitching, and bone setting. An analysis of Gladiator remains shows that they were fed a diet rich in calcium, as evidenced by the high levels of calcium in their bones. This was not just for bone health, but also for the healing of fractures and wounds. Their lives were a paradox. They were enslaved killers who were celebrated, despised, and nurtured all at the same time. They were the ultimate symbol of Roman power, and also a testament to its deep-seated fascination with the fragility of human life. The life of a gladiator was a stark reflection of the Roman world itself, a world built on conquest, slavery, and a profound appreciation for the spectacle of life and death. They were a product of their time, a role that was forced upon them, and yet they made of it what they could, building identities, forging bonds, and pursuing a chance at a better existence. The gladiator's journey was one of incredible hardship, but also of remarkable resilience, a story of men who faced the very worst of human nature and still managed to carve out a place for themselves in history. As the night has deepened, you can almost hear the distant roar of the crowd, a faint echo from the ancient past that is now nothing more than a whisper on the wind. We have journeyed through the training yards, walked the dusty floors of the Ludus, and stood in the shadows of the Colosseum, watching the lives of these extraordinary men unfold. The story of the gladiator is a story of contradiction, of violence and celebration, of slavery and freedom, of death and enduring fame. As the sounds of the ancient city fade and the stars begin to blanket the Roman sky, you can feel yourself slowly drifting, the weight of history a calm and soothing presence. The last gladiator's footsteps have long since faded, but his story, like the stones of the Colosseum, remains, a testament to the complex and enduring nature of the human spirit. Rest now, as the echoes of the past gently carry you into a deep and peaceful sleep.